Welcome to the Art Studio Insights podcast, where we demystify the creative process and exchange ideas with career-minded artists. We are your hosts, Adriana May and
Jackie Sanders. We are two emerging artists sharing forward the advice and business lessons we have learned along our journey. So if you are not already, please go ahead and subscribe. This will help other creatives like you find our podcast, and you will be notified when we drop a new episode every week. So for today's episode, it is Christmas week, so we wanted to have a more low-key episode, just celebrate the holidays and just talk about what the holidays mean for both of us as business owners, obviously just as people spending time with families, and how that affects maybe some of our creative energy and where we get inspiration this time of year. So Adriana, are there any huge holiday traditions that you celebrate with your family and friends and loved ones?
Not really. I think a lot of it centers around food, to be honest.
Best traditions do, though.
I guess in a way the tradition is eat whatever you want. It's all calorie free is the joke. No matter how bad it is. It's it's Christmas. It has no calories.
Just celebrate.
No matter how bad it is. So besides actually spending time with family, a lot of it definitely revolves around food.
Do you normally travel for the holidays?
Sometimes I do. Honestly, sometimes I've had, and 2020 was interesting in the sense that obviously none of us, or a lot of us, didn't see our families.
Yeah.
Which, okay, all right, I'm gonna sound like a terrible person, but I'm gonna say it. I actually didn't mind it as much as I thought.
Honestly, Adriana, I've said the same thing too, because I remember Thanksgiving last year, and maybe even Christmas, or definitely the day after Christmas, I remember spending with you in the studios.
It was great.
Actual Thanksgiving evening. It was us sitting on the floor of your studio eating pizza. And I was just honestly, this is a great time. I'm not mad about it.
Well, and it's you can find parking, and because we're in a downtown, so it's you can find parking. Everything's semi-deserted. There's no lines anywhere. I don't know. It was actually kind of nice.
Right.
Maybe it's because we're creatives and we're so used to alone time for a creation process. But
yeah,
I don't know. I felt that was nice. Of course, I do miss spending time with family, but there's usually, it's complicated. Families are usually complicated. And then the gift giving process, it's kind of stressful. What if they don't like it? Or what if they get you something and then you got to keep your poker face of great, socks and a candle. Thank you so much.
At least those are very giftable if you don't like it.
I know, but you still got to keep the face of thank you so much. And then the person next to you gets something really awesome and you're yep. Just
the psychology of gift giving is always
it is. And it's so much easier, I feel giving gifts to artists, because I feel that's, it's easier. It's you can get them a brush, you can give them paint, you can give them varnish. Most people are hey, yeah, thank you. But it's not I can give varnish to my mother-in-law.
Yeah. It's always
that might be an interesting conversation.
She'd be what is this?
What is this for? Oh, for painting. Oh, wait, you don't paint. Oops.
Okay. I'll take that off your hands. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, I'll get you something else. I'll paint you something. I don't know.
It's always that interesting thing of even if varnish, for example, you just talked about, which for listeners who may not know, that's what you use to finish a painting and seal it. And so it's funny thinking the psychology of gift giving of, okay, this is something that I personally value. And so when you give it to someone else, that means a lot because you value it, but trying to figure out what the person that's receiving it, what do they value, which is that's the whole psychology of just getting out of your own brain and the thoughtfulness in giving, which is very difficult sometimes.
Yeah. How about traditions on your end?
Yeah. So I normally would travel up to Maryland. My family's from Maryland, so it's not too far of a travel. It's a quick 1 hour plane flight. But honestly, in the recent years, it's been super chill. Just Christmas Day, we used to have a huge party, all of our family and friends, a big happy hour, basically, is what we would call it. all like neighborhood families that came, had like all kids the same age. And we just had like appetizers all day long as our meal, which was the best. But of course, then you grow up and people's families move, and all my childhood friends who I'm still close with, and it's amazing, but like they don't all live in Maryland anymore. So it's definitely more low key, just like immediate family. But last year when I was buying gifts, I actually started doing something that I think so many people love the idea of shopping local, but might not actually do it as their dominant purchasing outlet, if that makes sense. Like, oh, I buy like one or two things local and the rest will be on Amazon, or like the rest will be at Target. And so last year I made the really conscious effort, especially with COVID, of like, okay, I'm only going to buy local gifts. And so I went to like markets, or if people were selling on like Instagram, I would order like art prints. And honestly, I'm going to be doing that again this year. I'm like halfway done with gift giving. Because I feel like it's such a cool tradition to have, especially because just like you were talking about, let's say if you give a gift to someone and maybe they don't value it as much as you do, but in my thought, I'm like, okay, well, at least I made the day of the maker that I bought it from. And for a lot of people, they're like, oh, this is like my first sale. This is my first in-person market, which like, it's so cool to be part of that experience for these artists and makers, or even if they are an established local at every single market. We all know those people, like, okay, there's that person again. They're like really hustling and they're at every event. It seems like it's cool to then have a piece from these like local icons, basically. So I'm definitely doing that again this year. I have a few more people that I've been like eyeing their stuff for a while. So yeah, definitely doing a shop local Christmas again. It's a lot of fun.
I've been doing that, but for things for me, to be honest.
But it is hard to give them up and be like,
I really like
it, I'll take it.
But that just reminded me a few years ago, what I used to do was whenever I would travel overseas, mostly to Asia, I would buy a lot of things for gifts. And I would give them away in the holidays. Like that was the point of it. And just giving someone. So it was like a different kind of shop local. It was shop local while I was over there. But say I buy something in Bali or in Thailand or in Japan. So cool. And then, my friends would get gifts from these different countries. So I was supporting local for some of the folks in some of these places abroad. Where, a $4 item just made their day. Like, and over here, it's a different budget. Let's just call it that. But, they're coming from a very different economic situation. So even helping them out a little bit it is a big deal. So you're supporting them, helping them feed their families essentially. And then over on this end, I get to have a cool story to pass down about where this came from. And maybe like pique the interest of that person to actually look more into the country that it came from and then perhaps visit it. So it was a different kind of visit local.
Oh, that's cool.
Go visit the maker kind of thing. But I really like that. I know you did it last, you've been doing it, the whole like buying local, and then the gifts are all of, people in our area. That's really cool too.
But that's cool. Yeah. That you do in terms of like almost exposure to different cultures, where like
that was my biggest thing.
You gotta travel there, and even if your friends didn't, they still get like a piece of it, and like you can tell the story. It gives like purpose behind it, and that's always, I love having those objects in my home. Like you're saying, whether every time I travel, even within the US, like I just went to Colorado and bought like 2 like wood sculptures from a local artist there. They were part of a gallery co-op. And I'm like, this is my souvenir from this trip, is like all these stories of artists from around the country.
Yeah. Forget the keychains.
Right,
we want something more significant.
Exactly. And it does require like some budgeting. And some places I buy a $10 art print. Some places I spend a little bit more. And as I grow, I'll be able to work up my collection. But it's cool having like, when people come over to my house being like, oh, like I love this painting. And I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Well, actually, like this was from a market when I went to Arizona. It was this girl, she went to college here, and this is her style. And like, it's cool building those connections. And then even on your scale, like from an international scale, even if you don't know like the intense story of the artist, you can talk about the culture. You can talk about the symbolism in the piece and why that's, iconic for their culture and all those things. It's so
Yep.
fun.
And why I decided it was important enough to put it on a ship and wait 2 months for it to arrive. Like,
That's true.
You don't go through all that extra effort unless you really think it's worth it. So, as you were talking, it just kind of reminded me of part of why we love like original art. It's that same thing. It's that story behind it, the story behind the maker, the creation of the piece, etc. And then also the hope that the person will resonate with it, which is part of why it's challenging to give away art.
I know.
Which I'll just ask you before we get into the rest of our, holiday convo is like, do you ever give away art as a holiday gift?
You mean purchase art from someone and then give it to them, or give my pieces?
You make it.
I personally do not. One, in terms of, I'm always nervous, especially for like, obviously the larger you go with artwork, then you're like committing them to this wall space. Mm-hmm. So typically if I do end up giving artwork, it's artwork that another artist has made, so I can like purchase it from them to support them. And then it's normally like smallish, 10 by 10 or smaller. Normally I love, like, I know you have a bunch of minis in your studio, and I'm starting to make some that are like 4x4s or even 6x6, like it could fit on a bookshelf, in terms of like arranging it with other pieces. But I don't like doing like, oh, here's a 4 foot by 6 foot painting. Hope you have space above your couch. Like that's a bigger commitment and decision, unless they obviously specifically ask for it.
And even then, would you?
In which case they can become a commissioned client and collector, and we'll have a contract.
That's kind of my thought about it, because I'm always like afraid of, okay, what if I put all these hours into it and the person just doesn't value it the same, especially if they've never bought from you, but they're asking like, oh, but you can make me this for Christmas. And it's like, but can I though? But do I want to though? Like, I think that's the biggest if you thing, like it so much, you could buy from me. Like, I mean, I could give you family and friends, I guess, at that point.
Right.
Whole different conversation if we even do that. So one of the things I got asked to paint at one point by, a family member, no names need to be shared on this, was to paint an animal. I won't even say the animal, because then the person will know I'm talking about them. So I'm just gonna say dog. It's not a dog. It was a different animal, but we're just gonna say dog. And my thing was, I'm like, look at my work, look at my Instagram. Do you see any dogs? Do you see any animals other than ocean animals? And that was a long time ago. Dog. So it turned into, okay, I could take this one of two ways. I could take this as an unpaid commission / challenge situation of like, okay, I've never really painted a dog. That doesn't mean I can't paint a dog.
True.
It's just not necessarily my interest. I mean, I love my dogs, don't get me wrong.
Paint a dog is the question.
But so it's like, do I want to accept, quote unquote, the challenge and do it to see if it would even turn out, and then give it away? the fruits of my labor, maybe. And be like, good enough, it looks cool, enjoy? Or do I want to instead say, no, I'm not giving you anything. I'll give you a print. I'll give you a greeting card. Honestly, I'll give you a magnet. You know what I mean? So it's like, honestly,
I think that happens all the time. And similarly, like I don't give my original paintings away. If I am going to gift a piece of mine to someone, it will be like an art product, like you were saying, like one of my mini color catchers or a sticker or something. But that situation happens to me all the time, especially I felt like more when I was just starting. I think now that you and I have kind of both found our style, and from like a branding marketing perspective, it's more clear kind of the direction we're going in or the things that we're exploring. But especially when I was first starting off, I think loved ones, like they just want to be supportive, and they think that by like requesting stuff that they're like supporting you and your vision, but like, hey, like, can you paint us a picture of like the childhood house you grew up in, like maybe lived here for like 20 years or something? And I'm like, I could. However,
It's
I
not what
don't want to. Like, I can do representational. I'm not saying I can do it well, but like if I want, like you were saying, if I wanted to challenge myself, I could, but I'm gonna politely decline. And I think
Mhm.
that's the cool part now of growing our artist network and knowing so many other local artists and friends, because I kind of use that as a double-edged sword of being able to support other local artists and get out of these potentially awkward situations when people request it and be like, you know what, I could, and I really appreciate that you want to support me. However, I think it would really mean a lot to me, and it would make the day of my friend
So and
blank,
so.
who that is their bread and butter, is like watercolors of architecture. So, you know what? I'm going to give you their number, and I know they'll be able to create a piece way better than I would be able to. That way, it's a win-win. This
Yep.
artist gets a new commission piece. Your family and friends are like, they can still
So
say that you
happy.
referred them when they still get the piece. And it's probably going to be a lot better than what I would have made them. Because after all, like, your energy and creativity can be finite at times, especially the stress of the holidays. Of like, this is the last thing you want to have to worry about is something that you don't feel invested in.
Exactly. And again, if it's something that you're like, "Ooh, okay, challenge accepted," that's one thing.
Right.
But even then, yeah, if I give original art away, which I have gifted it before, same thing. It'll just be like small 4x4s if they're originals, or like a little canvas print. I've given those away before as gifts to very specific people, and it's more based on what they have expressed interest in before.
Right.
At which point you could almost think of it, if we're flipping the coin on that one, almost like a marketing expense.
True.
I mean, it's evil, but almost on the thought of like, you got them this little thing. Now they put it on their desk. They look at it all the time. It brings them joy. It still does. They might come back and actually want to buy something. So I wouldn't get
Yeah.
into the habit of giving art away. At the end of the day, you and I are very big on, we're artists, we're doing a
Right.
service, we're creating
Promotion.
product. We should get paid just like everybody else instead of
Facts.
people that expect to get it for free.
Yeah.
And that's when it's good to reinforce, like, no, this is actually my job. So
Right. I
you
always
want
compare it
that
to
big
like,
thing over your couch. You got to pay like everybody else.
right,
So
exactly. And especially when like family or friends make some of those like out of the blue commissions, like for you, like, hey, can you paint this dog? I always like to compare it. And I think because people kind of associate artists as like, oh, well, you can work in any medium, any style. You're just like this golden unicorn, which, like, honestly, I wish that was the case.
some artists can.
I wish I invested the time, not saying that I couldn't, but like, I wish I prioritized the time to be good at like every medium if I wanted to. But I kind of compare it to like engineers, right? Like, the same person that builds a boat is not the same person that's building skyscrapers. Like,
Mhm.
the basics of like physics and math, when really boiled down, are similar, but they're totally different focuses. Like, they don't do the same thing, even though they're all engineers, like a structural engineer and all that. So I think it's really interesting. It's one of those common misconceptions with artists a lot of the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, and another example is like a mechanic. A mechanic that works on boats or works on
Right.
airplanes is not the same one that does the oil change on your car.
Right.
I mean,
Or
try it.
doctors
You'll see
or
what kind of
anything
comment
else.
you're gonna get back out of them. Just don't. Like,
Please don't.
it's the same thing with us. We all have our specialties. Yes, there are artists that actually do all kinds of mediums, but even then, they'll still specialize on certain subjects, or they'll be really broad on subjects, but it'll be one medium. So it's like, just look at their Instagram or their website first. That's all we can ask.
Yeah.
Obviously, being that this is a podcast for artists, I'm sure we're already preaching to the choir.
Right.
But
But
yeah.
maybe it'll help some artists like navigate those conversations too, because that's inevitable, especially as you're starting to grow your art style, or especially starting to market your business. That's a common question around the holidays. Like, oh, I've been seeing what you're posting on Instagram. Like, that's so great that you're moving forward with it. And people might make comments that you perceive as offensive, but they have good intentions of like just wanting to support you. But I think it is good in terms of knowing how to navigate those conversations without having to risk your time and your creative energy, or like taking on that guilt of saying no, but really realizing that that's an empowering feeling. Because what if the time you spent trying to learn how to do a dog painting, in that time, you could be making your next favorite piece in your style that might be your like front and center painting of your future solo exhibition. Like having to think of it that way. Like, are you willing to risk that for Aunt Sally, who's not going to pay you anything, but she loves her dog and wants a portrait of it? Like,
yeah. And another way to think about it too could be, whatever your passion is, think about how it can deviate. So let's say you play piano. If someone's like, oh, but I love this violin piece, are you willing to learn violin just to make someone happy?
Right.
When your thing is piano, right? We're giving you all different examples, but
yeah.
Maybe they can help you navigate, especially when you're answering in a loving, sweet, diplomatic way of like, if I do piano, I don't do violin. Like they're not even similar. It's music. But one's like you use your fingers and you like press down. The other one is like strings and you use like that bow thing. Like they're a completely different animal, even though they're both music and they use like, sheet music and whatever.
Right.
But the delivery, the learning,
I think that's honestly a good example because it is still like a creative arts field, but that's like a very clear, like you wouldn't be a pianist and like a saxophone player.
I mean, unless you are trained. Don't get me wrong. Both. Some people can, but it could be a nice way if somebody's asking you to, again, do that thing that you don't do. You can just be like, look, I'm like a pianist and you're asking me to play the violin. I love you. Can I make you something else? I can give you a family and friends discount on an existing thing. Different conversation for a different day. If you can do that. But that way you don't grow resentful of like, oh, now I'm learning this thing and I don't even get it and it's not the same.
Bad violin.
It sounds, it's like terrible. And why did I even say yes? It's like, just avoid that unless you actually want to learn that. Just gently, pawn it off. I'm kidding. Refer them to somebody else if you really want that.
And that's in their specialty and it'll make their day. So it's like a win-win all around.
And they got to pay them.
Right. Exactly. But I think that's a perfect segue in terms of, as an artist, you can appreciate the styles of other people and the mediums that they work in. Even if it's like not what you work in, you probably will never work in that medium, but you can still appreciate the process and the creative aspect of it, which I am so excited because okay. Since I was in the 5th grade, I have been obsessed with glass blowing. Like literally in my 5th grade yearbook, what do you want to be when you grow up? It said, I want to be a glass blower at the Corning Museum of Art.
What?
Such a nerd. That's what my 5th grade yearbook says, because that summer on a family vacation, we went to the Corning Museum and they had like a display of all this like beautiful like glass sculptures and insane. And they were doing a demonstration of like how they blow the glass and they put it in the fire and there's like flames going everywhere. And it was seriously the coolest thing ever. So my 5th grade yearbook, I want to be a glass blower at the Corning Museum of Art. I'm a fine artist, so not too far off, different medium.
No fire though.
No fire. Not yet. Maybe future installation piece. But I am so excited because have you ever seen the show Blown Away on Netflix?
Isn't that one of those reality shows where they're all competing against each other?
Yes.
Like Iron Chef, but it's like glass instead.
Yes. So, okay. If anyone's met me, I am honestly obsessed with like competition shows. I'm a very competitive person. I love sport. So like anything where like people like week to week they get eliminated, like I'm about it. So Blown Away was a show on Netflix that was, a glass blowing competition. They have different challenges and they just released a holiday edition.
Oh my God.
And I'm like, perfect. I'm going to watch this like 12 times. The episodes are like short. They're like 25, 28 minutes. And it's so freaking good. So I had to hop on. Obviously with the holiday season, family time can be kind of stressful, or family and friends, or if you're looking for new inspiration in your creative process while you're flying or on a road trip, look at Blown Away on Netflix because it's just so good. And I like every time I watch it, I'm just like, I need to get to the studio. I have so many ideas. And
I
especially
haven't.
it's
Oh,
cool
sorry.
like seeing their process of I like the way the show talks about the conceptual aspect of the work. Like, of course, the visuals are amazing. They're like fire everywhere, and people are like sweating. It's like very dramatic. But they also talk about like the symbolism of each piece and how this sphere represents whatever. And so I love that aspect from a showcasing the arts standpoint is really cool.
Well, I have an art one too. Ish. So it's called Lupin, and it's
Ooh,
basically
I've never heard of
like,
that.
oh, I think you would like it. So it's a thriller, and he's basically an art thief. So
Oh,
they're showing things
cool.
like stealing things out of the Louvre. And I mean, it's really, really cool. His dad got framed and he's trying to clear his name, but he is a thief. Like, he's just, they call him like the gentleman thief because he wouldn't hurt
Oh,
anybody. But I mean, yeah,
it kind of
there's a
sounds
lot of
like
drama. It's French, by the way.
love
And
it.
yeah, subtitles were great. So you're good there.
Have you
I
ever
mean, it's really cool. That one's on Netflix.
did you ever watch White Collar?
Yes, a long time ago. I never finished it,
I
but
didn't either. That
I
kind of like
enjoyed it. This is much better. I promise you. The
okay.
quality of it is production is so much better, and he has a kid and an ex-wife and a friend that's helped
Drama.
him since high school, and there's a lot of stuff going on. It's really good. It's
Yeah.
a prepare to binge.
Oh no. Okay,
Yeah.
so when I'm
Or
flying up to
set the time
Maryland,
and be like 2 episodes and I gotta cut it.
yeah.
Because it's like watching a movie, but it's a thriller. So you just like, you know,
What's gonna happen next?
what's gonna
That's on
happen next?
Netflix
I need to
too.
know. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
one's on Netflix.
When I'm flying up to Maryland, I need some things to download.
Yeah,
Which
I
honestly,
think that'll be a good one.
yeah, normally I just watch like Great British Bake Off, which I feel like is very cliche, but like it's just so lovely and calming. And like if I take a nap and wake up, like it's fine. I'll just pick up wherever they are. And their pastries are crumbling and it's like very dramatic. But then they're like everyone puts their food in the oven. They're just like sipping on tea, waiting. So it's like the most calming reality show I've ever watched. And it's just lovely. They're all happy. Even when they get eliminated, they're like, oh, well, this wasn't my day. And they just, it's not intense, like you're saying, like Iron Chef, where they're like yelling and my life depends on this pastry. They're like, oh, well, not my day. I'll try again tomorrow. It's just so nice and calming.
So yeah, Great British Bake Off. I've watched it too.
It's so
Not
good.
as intensely as you have, but I do agree. Their level of, should we call it sportsmanship? Is
Yes.
fantastic. I'm like, if this was a show in other countries, America, people wouldn't be taking it so gracefully. They would be like, what do you mean you won and I didn't? Like, I don't know. I'm
Right.
kidding. But I feel like it'd be a little more aggressive over here. And over there, they're so chill about it, about
And their
losing.
accents just make it like so calming and cute.
There's just something about accents. And it's like,
so good.
and not just British accents, just accents in general. Lupin has the French accents going on, so that's amazing. And there's another show that I feel like it's definitely, in my eyes, it's just a classic at this point. It's like, it's a thriller. There's mystery, there's romance, there's things like going back in time into the future and things like that. Outlander, people. Outlander.
Oh, okay.
My goodness. Sweeping romantic story across, like, yeah. Imagine like falling back in time and now you're like hundreds of years ago in the past and you fall in love with like some really attractive Scotsman. And then now you're like going back into the future, but he's still behind and now you got to go back.
Oh, no.
Anyways, it's like, it's a lot of back and forth. So there's like romance, there's sadness, there's loss, there's winning, there's love. Yeah, it has
the ups and downs,
all the things. And then of course, as part of it is the accents. So it's very interesting hearing like older versions of English or Scottish, and like here versus like more modern like British accents and American accents from back in the day as well. Like I don't know. It's very interesting. So
Ooh, I'll have
yeah,
to
when it
check that
comes
one
to
out.
accents, yeah, it's a thing. Outlander. And that one, Outlander, I think they have a few seasons on Netflix, if not all of them, but
Oh, cool.
it's a star show.
Gotcha. That
Which
always makes it easy,
yeah, yeah,
especially because Netflix, you can like download it to your mobile device.
yeah,
So even if you're like on airplane mode, because that's just something like everyone has their own streaming platform now, but like some of them you can download, some of you can't. Some of them, when you're watching it, you can also be doing other things on your phone, while some of them, like you have to stay on that screen.
yeah. And that one, honestly, the sweeping landscapes, like, of these different countries, the music, it's the kind of show you watch and it just kind of, it stays in your brain a little bit longer. There's a lot of it to think about. So it's not your
Oh,
simple romance situation. There's so
yeah,
much
it
more.
sticks with you.
I know. I mean, there are landscapes in it where I'm like, I kid you not, I probably took out my phone, like paused the show to like took out my
Read
phone and
it.
took a picture. I'm like, I need to abstract that landscape. That is absolutely gorgeous and inspiring, and I want to paint that. So it was
Yes.
really cool.
Oh, that
It was
sounds
really cool.
awesome.
So definitely worth checking out for those of you that are like a few days off in the holidays. I don't know what to binge on. Outlander. I'm gonna throw
Outlander.
Outlander in the bucket. Throw it in the
Well,
list.
I honestly feel like that in terms of like panning B-roll. I feel like that every time I watch Survivor because it's just like beautiful Caribbean water, like jungle scenes.
Survivor had to come up.
I mean, it's inevitable. If anyone has met me or talked to me for like 10 minutes, I'm obsessed with Survivor. I watch it. That's probably like my go-to show. Like everyone has that one show, like, hey, just throw something on the background. I've watched literally every season multiple times. Multiple, not even exaggerated. Yes, Survivor of CBS. They still make new seasons for those of you that don't know. Currently on season 41. 4-1. So it's so good. This current season is like a whole new spin on the game. After season 40, it's like this new era that they're doing, which of course, TV wise, like very dramatic. But yeah, it's amazing. And again, the weekly elimination portion of it. So if I had a show to suggest, if you wanted to go into like a competition show, I highly suggest Survivor because it's like family friendly, good competition. There's like the psychology of like human dynamics that you can look at. There's also the competitions of like the award challenges and immunity challenges. So like there's the physical aspect, but all of it is like relationship building. And I think that's why it's been going for so long because it's truly about like human conversations and relationships and like where people's priorities lie and who lies about what their job is back home and who's to a fault truthful about everything that becomes their downfall. Like it's just really interesting and thinking about how you might react in those situations. So all of them are on Paramount Plus, but they are starting to trickle seasons into Netflix, which I think if I had to pick one season to suggest, actually, no, I would say season 40 is my absolute favorite season. However, it's because that's the Winners at War season. See, now you got me started talking about it. I can't stop. Because it's Winners at War. So it's 20 winners from all past seasons.
Yeah.
So everyone on the show has won before. So especially if you're a super fan like I am, then it's like, oh, like there's Cochran, there's Boston Rob, there's Amber. So it's like all these people that you like know and love that are on this season. It's so good. So I would definitely suggest starting on Netflix. They're starting to trickle out seasons based on popularity. So I know there's a handful on there. And it's just so good. And beautiful Caribbean landscapes, blues and yellows and greens. Like, what's not to love? It's so good. Okay, tangent over.
You're cracking me up.
So
but yeah, I have walked into Jackie's studio and she was painting and had Survivor in the background. Because at first I was like, is that what I think it is? She's like, yeah. Well, I'm just varnishing. So and I don't really like varnishing, so I'm just gonna have this in the background.
I mean, I have submitted my application video. I will be on Survivor one day. You heard it here first, folks. Well, not first. I tell everyone that. But in a future season when Adriana has to do solo episodes. Or
because you're in Survivor.
I'm on Survivor.
What?
Really? I mean, I'm about it. It's gonna happen. It's just a matter of time. So I'm very excited.
Okay. All right. Not the hashtag artist goal I expected, but that's okay. That's okay.
Talk about
that's a hashtag competitive Jackie goal and totally not unexpected. So you're good there.
I mean, come on. Talk about inspiration. Disconnect from technology on this Caribbean island watching sunrises every
Wait,
day.
hold on. Are you really disconnected from reality? I mean, when the camera shut down, I bet you they just go for their phones.
No, you don't have phones.
Not while they're filming.
They don't. It's real. Mm-hmm. I mean, they have, like, the crew has their stuff.
It's TV, so it must be real. They have no access to the internet anywhere.
Trust me, I've done the research. I follow all these survivors on application video tips on TikTok. They probably
sign an NDA anyways.
It's real. You're going to get me Jackie. Fired up.
All right, Jackie. It's on TV. It must be real. All right. We're just going to leave it at that.
The bet I will die on.
Okay. I'm backing away slowly. Well, speaking of competitive and
are there any competitive shows that you watch?
Yeah, Squid Game. Oh my goodness. I never expected I would like this game. I don't like, it's not straight up horror. I'll throw it out that way, but there's gore. So for anybody that's like, you've been warned. It is also elimination rounds. It's not like Saw. I don't like those series, honestly. They're too predictable, and the gore feels like it's excessive. And I mean, those are more like straight up horror. Yeah. No, this one's more like, I feel like in many ways it's like a thriller, in the sense that you're trying to find out why did they grab these folks. They all have gambling problems or like big debt and whatnot, and they do put them in an island. See, island thing. It's a thing. And they have to go through a series of, without giving anything away, they have to go through a series of competitions where if they don't pass, they get eliminated. Like, actually eliminated. And then it's like trying to find out like what happens, and then a cop goes undercover, and he's trying to survive without getting found out, and trying to get the proof of what's happening, and that this has been going on for a while. And I mean, I honestly, I was surprised. In our household, that's not the kind of show we watch either. So it was surprising that we were so much into it. Again, because it does have like nail biting action, and you're rooting for the main character, obviously, and some of his friends, and you're like, please survive, please survive. So I thought that one was very, very interesting. They've only made one season, and even before the season was over, they were already talking about the second one. So I can't wait. Yeah. It is Korean, so you're gonna have to watch it with subtitles. There's no English dub, but totally worth it. Totally worth it. It's so good. That one's on Netflix. Version. Oh, you found a dub? Okay.
I didn't know that there was not I mean, I guess partial way through the first episode, I'm like, something's off. But like, that was the first one that came up for me.
Okay. See, I watched it in Korean. I didn't see the English option, cool. Which is fine.
I think maybe sometimes they're listed the voice as like is off. Things.
Yeah, sometimes the voice is off from the mouth. I think there's some shows I've watched where the dubbing is so good, it almost syncs up when they're talking, which is great. Well, that's like whoever the voice actors are so good that even though they're speaking in a different language, they try to make they talk in a way that looks almost like the original person is saying it in a different language. So that's cool. I didn't see it for that one, but honestly, I don't mind watching shows in their original language for the most part. And then just having the subtitles on. That's fine.
Yeah.
Plus listening to French, it's nice. That's for Lupin. And then with this one, listening to Korean, I don't know. I like the sound of Korean, I guess.
And I think especially like it enhances the experience by listening to it. Even if you can't understand the words and you're reading the subtitles, it enhances the experience to see it in the way that it was created. Like obviously the dubbed over English is fine, but I'm sure there's probably things like lost in translation or
like, the voices, like the person. Right, like so maybe the main character in their original, recording, maybe has like a deep manly voice kind of thing going on, right? And
That's
then they'll
totally
have
right.
an American, or it doesn't have to be an American, obviously, it can be someone from another country, but they'll have an English speaking person translating, and it'll be like, hey, my name is blah blah blah, and you're like, and after you've heard the original where it's like, hi, my name is blah blah blah, you're like, no, like,
because that shows so much about the character and like that,
the
like,
voice,
how you like perceive them as a character. Their voice tone is so much of it.
Yeah, so if they sound like, and then the person dubbing's like, ha, you're like, no, it's, I don't know. It doesn't always happen, but yeah, that one, highly recommended. If you can stand to watch it in its original language and just watch subtitles, it's great. It's a great show. Just be prepared to lose some of your favorites.
Yeah, no.
Like forever. Yep. Where you're like, I'm rooting for you. Okay, gone. Whoops.
Okay,
fell down. Okay. They fell down. They're not coming back up.
Maybe season 2. I don't know. Maybe there's not magical aspect of it. But honestly, this is a perfect segue to my last recommendation for if you're looking for something to binge on the holidays. Kind of a weird tie-in, but it works. Of a show that I never thought would come back, but people do it. So HBO released a revamped version of Gossip Girl. Now, hear me out. Hear me out. I was so skeptical going into it because I didn't watch Gossip Girl like in the early 2000s. I didn't watch it in real time. I watched it in college and just like binged
the reruns, essentially.
Yeah. Well, like they put it all on Netflix and I just like watched the whole series kind of thing. And I liked it. I thought it was good. So this new version, I like it because they're not like recreating the characters then. It's basically as if it's the same school and there's new students like 10 years later about like this myth of, oh, remember when Dan Humphrey created this account called Gossip Girl, blah, blah, blah. But now in this season, it's 2 of the teachers that recreate the account in order to like keep the kids in line, quote unquote. So now the teachers are Gossip Girl and you like the viewer knows that, but none of the students do. And so it's kind of like bringing this iconic Gossip Girl character back to life. And it's super cool because it kind of has that modern ethical twist on it rather than just like love romance and love triangles for early aughts drama sake. It takes that next level of like,
now there's psychology. Some repercussions.
Yeah, like what are the repercussions? What are the ethics behind this? Like if you're like toying with these kids' reality, like or exposing this scandal, like this is actually a lawsuit and now you can definitely be like criminally charged as like participating and like all this interesting stuff. So I didn't think I would like it. I went in very skeptical, but I'm a huge fan. So they have like 10 episodes out now. It's really good. Yeah. And you don't have to watch the original series of Gossip Girl to watch this one. So
I don't know how I feel about that one. I don't know. I did used to buy. Okay, so yeah, I did used to watch like series that had high schools in it, like Vampire Diaries. Come on.
I never watched that one.
Oh, it was. It seemed like a good idea at the time, and I did watch all of the seasons of it. It's kind of like, wait, have you watched Twilight? Please tell me you've watched at least one of them. Okay, it's kind of like that. It's like high school age vampires and werewolves and like, God knows what else. Very predictable romance situation. Anyways, and like high school drama. So I did used to watch that, so I can't judge you. Been there. But I think I'm gearing more towards like, I always like the more adventure and thriller type things. So one that I've been getting into, it's brand new, and I will confess, I am suffering because of it. I like to watch shows when a whole season is out. So if I want to watch 3 episodes at a time, I can. If I want to watch just 1 episode, because that's all I have time for, I can. If I want to watch 5 episodes in a row, ooh.
So that makes sense why you like if more Netflix shows, because they normally just release them all at once.
Exactly. Typically, yeah. However, this one, it's called Wheel of Time. It's on Amazon. a new episode comes out every Friday. And this happened to me with an HBO show I was watching before called The Nevers. Same thing. It was like once a week. And I'm just
Builds the
like,
suspense.
well, The Mandalorian on Disney Plus was the same way. I mean, there's the pattern here. These are shows that are like nail biting, like, oh my God, what's gonna happen next?
Yeah.
And then you're like, okay, here are the credits. Next episode. There is no next
there
episode.
Is none.
You gotta wait till next Friday. No!
Great. Remember when TV used to be like that? Like Tuesday night, if you missed that episode of Gilmore Girls, like there was an instant rewatch before.
Oh, you're talking like, before there was like the recording devices.
Right. Before even TiVo, I was like, Mom, I have to be home at 8:00 on Tuesday to watch Gilmore Girls because then everyone's going to spoil it and there's no way to rewatch it.
Mm-mm.
Like,
wow, we just aged ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Terribly, that wasn't that long ago.
I know,
like 10 years ago, which I guess
I know, and I have a few more years on you, but I'm like, I am from that generation of like, you'd be begging your mom to please record on the VHS on time because there was no mechanical thing that would do it for you. Commercials and all. Can you like hit record on an empty VHS so I can watch it later because I'm still in school or whatever, or I have something else?
Goodness. Wow. I remember the days of, going to like rent a DVD of when they came out with the box sets of a show.
Like Blockbuster Video, and you'd get the whole season. But you had to wait a while because if somebody else rented it, you had to wait a while till they returned it. Mm-hmm.
Literally, I mean, Gilmore Girls is another show. Like that's one I watched in real time and like loved when I was growing up. I had every single season, the DVD box set. They cost like $50 each.
Uh-huh.
Like, I easily spent $400 for every season of Gilmore Girls.
That you'll probably never see again.
Now it's included on Netflix for like $10 a month. I'm like, I can't even sell them because I like watch them from there because I don't even have a DVD player. My laptop doesn't even have a disc drive. I literally have no way to watch this.
I mean, you can buy a disc drive for $20. I'm just going to throw it out there.
But
would you?
No.
No. And for me, it's like Wheel of Time is really, really cool because it's like there's magic involved. There's like some mystery. There's like possibly a dragon, but they haven't shown the dragon yet, so I don't know if they're like talking figurative or not. But there's like magicians, and I don't know. It's like one of
Game of Thrones action in there.
Nowhere near the gore of Game of Thrones, and nowhere near the. I love that character. They're now dead, and you're like, no, nowhere near those levels.
Who knows?
Yet. I don't think so. It doesn't seem that dark, to be honest, but I don't know. It has like cool fantasy elements going on, but I feel like the acting's also pretty solid. And okay, there's a pattern here. I like sweeping landscapes. Apparently, it's a thing.
That B-roll gets you every time.
The B-roll gets me every time. Yeah, it's like I don't know where they're filmed, but it looks like kind of like The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, where it's like New Zealand type landscapes or like Ireland or something. I don't know. It's like those big, I don't know. It's just beautiful.
Yeah.
So I like that one. That one, you may like that one because 4 of the main characters, I think they're 20 years old, if I'm not mistaken. So they're like almost high schoolish type drama. And I like you, but you like somebody else. And I think you would like that part of it. that has some in common with some of the other shows you mentioned. So there's a little bit of that. And there's other mysteries and things going on. So I don't know. I think it's a good one. Just be ready that you have to wait.
Maybe I'll just wait until the end of the season and then watch all of it at once. Like, because I haven't started yet, I'll just wait. Just let me know when it's done and then I'll watch it all in one. Because like you said, like I like having those shows that, especially from the B-roll footage, sweeping landscapes, like inspire you, or maybe, if you're varnishing a painting, you can like have it on in the background type things. That's
Yeah, so that was fun. Obviously sharing with you some of the shows that we've enjoyed that maybe you can enjoy too if you have some extra time. Obviously, as you try to pace yourself, not just with these, there always needs to be time for your creative practice as well. But if you have that extra little break here and there, little recovery time in between your creative work and or well, you're just bored and you just want to watch it, all we can say is maybe set a timer, control the binge watching element, so you can still get a jump on your creative work and your art business. So definitely keep an eye for that, and let us know, of course, if there are any shows from your end that you enjoy too.
Exactly. And we just wanted to say happy holidays to everyone. We hope you enjoyed some of our show recommendations and gift giving recommendations of supporting fellow local artists. By the time you're listening to this episode, that might be a little too late, but looking forward into the new year, thinking about how you can lift up the creative community around you all year long, not just during the holidays.
Yep, and with that, we're going to wrap up this conversation. We hope you enjoyed this episode.
As always, both of our blogs will be linked in the show notes, as well as links to all of our other episodes. And in the blog, we will have a list of the shows that we talked about. So in case you have a road trip that you want to binge a show on, they'll be right there for you.
If you want to stay connected with us in between episodes and share the shows that you've enjoyed the most, you can connect with both of us on social media. I'm at May Art across all platforms.
And I'm at J Sanders Studio on all platforms. Thank you so much for listening, and we'll talk to you next week.